Now, it's been exactly a week since Typhoon Haiyan struck the Philippines. International aid is finally coming in by sea and air, but people in extremely remote areas are still not receiving help. There's been a huge effort made by the international community, and the contributions being made by countries is coming under scrutiny. The United States is one of the biggest contributors to the relief effort. It committed an initial $20 million in humanitarian assistance, and crucially, America has sent in an 8-strong aircraft carrier group led by the USS George Washington with 5,000 sailors and 80 aircraft which have been busy ferrying supplies to survivors. Britain's aid package is worth a total of $32 million, and it's also sending its biggest aircraft carrier, the HMS Illustrious. The ship is expected to reach the area in 10 days' time. Japan said on Friday that it's tripling its emergency aid package to more than $30 million and is preparing to send up to 1,000 troops in what would be the country's biggest foreign deployment since the Second World War. Australia has announced a further $18 million in aid, taking its total contribution to $28 million. China has said it's sending $1.6 million to the Philippines. Beijing had been criticised for its initial pledge of just $100,000. Well, for a closer look at the dynamics behind the giving of emergency aid, I'm joined here in the studio by Simon Levine. He's Research Fellow at the Overseas Development Institute. That's a think tank here in London. So, Simon, this is a fairly paltry sum given by China, given the size of its economy. Is it as mean as it looks?
Well, the first thing to say is it's only been, as you said, 1 week since the typhoon struck. And different countries give aid in different ways and at different speeds. I mean, for example, China typically is a much more state-centred country in its donorship, so it would tend to wait perhaps for a request for help from a host government, rather than, as might be more common in the West, people rushing in with non-governmental organisations to give assistance. So I don't think we need to draw any particular conclusions from a league table after 1 week.
But is it the usual suspects who rush in?
The international humanitarian assistance is dominated and has been dominated mainly by the same countries, the UK, European Union, United States and so on. But it isn't entirely the same. I mean, there have been an awful lot of changes in the last few years. For example, now the fourth biggest donor for humanitarian assistance is Turkey, which would have been a surprise 10 years ago to have thought that would be the case. And
so therefore, is aid a reflection then of the growing strength of a country on the international stage?
I think it's a reflection of a number of things. One is it's a reflection of the size of the economy and people's ability to give. It's a reflection of their political status on the world stage. We're seeing that, for example, in the Gulf, which has been very generous in its assistance to the Philippines. And what I'm very happy about is the fact that it's a reflection of how countries want to be seen on the world stage. So China, for example, the $2 million which it gave in response to some criticism, that means that China wants to be seen as a country not just which is powerful, but which is generous as well.
Is it good old plain altruism, or is there national self-interest also at play? The countries that rush in might be hoping for future reconstruction projects, opening up avenues of trust and economic opportunity?
Well, the first thing to say is that to the people on the ground, it doesn't really matter what the motives are for giving. First and foremost, it's life-saving aid. All countries give for a variety of motives, and you can never even be sure what people's motives are. Part of it is altruism. Part of it, as I said, is wanting to look good on the international stage. It's very good PR, and I think we should celebrate the fact that people feel that it's good PR to be seen to be generous. People also give specifically to countries where they've got closer ties. For example, the UK will give more to English-speaking countries of the Commonwealth.
The US has got military interests in the Philippines.
It already is there. So countries give in different places. And yes, we know that aid has always also been a tool of foreign policy, and that countries give when they want to influence politics on the ground and influence government decisions. Yes, we know that.
Oh, well, we know that, but it's good to just repeat it all again, isn't it, Simon? Thank you very much indeed, Simon Levine from the Overseas Development Institute.